Knowing your worth is not just a concept, it's the foundation upon which your entire approach to life and relationships is built. It defines how you see yourself, how you allow others to treat you, and the kind of energy you invite into your life. When you truly understand your value, it transforms the way you interact with the world, particularly with men. Yet, too often, many of us fall into the trap of overcompensating with niceness, thinking it will make us more likable, more desirable, or more appreciated. The truth is, when you place your worth in someone else's hands, you give away your power. Understanding your worth begins with recognizing that you are inherently valuable, regardless of external circumstances. Your worth is not determined by your relationship status, how much you sacrifice for others, or whether people find you agreeable. It is intrinsic, rooted in the fact that you are a unique and irreplaceable individual with talents, strengths, and a purpose. However, when you don't believe in your own worth, you may find yourself engaging in behaviors that diminish you. You might tolerate disrespect, accept less than what you deserve, or go out of your way to please others at the expense of your own needs and desires. For many, this pattern starts subtly. It may feel harmless to always say yes to make yourself endlessly accommodating, or to ignore red flags for the sake of harmony. But over time, this niceness, when used as a mask for undervaluing yourself, becomes a pattern that chips away at your confidence and self-respect. Instead of attracting respect and admiration, it often invites people to take you for granted. When you prioritize being nice over being authentic, you lose sight of the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one you have with yourself. Realizing your worth requires a mindset shift. It's about moving from a place of seeking approval to a place of self-assurance. When you know who you are and what you bring to the table, you stop looking to others for validation. This doesn't mean you become unkind or cold. It means you start setting boundaries that protect your energy and reflect your value. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are guidelines that show others how to treat you. Without them, even the best intentions can lead to frustration and imbalance. Knowing your worth also means you stop settling for less than what you deserve. This is not about perfection or holding others to impossible standards. It's about ensuring that your relationships, particularly with men, are built on mutual respect and effort. When you accept less, you communicate that less is acceptable. This doesn't challenge anyone to grow, it enables complacency. On the other hand, when you hold firm to your standards with kindness and grace, you inspire those around you to rise to meet them. This principle applies not only to romantic relationships, but also to every interaction in your life. Whether it's a friendship, a professional partnership, or a family dynamic, people respond to the way you present yourself. If you walk through life unsure of your value, you will attract situations that mirror that uncertainty. But when you step confidently into your worth, you create an environment where respect, honor, and authenticity thrive. It's important to note that understanding your worth is not about arrogance or superiority. It's about balance. It's knowing when to give and when to hold back, when to compromise and when to stand firm. A woman who knows her worth is not afraid to be kind, but her kindness is rooted in strength, not in a need to please. She listens, empathizes, and supports, but she does so without losing herself in the process. This is why the idea of stopping being nice is so powerful. It's not a rejection of kindness, it's a rejection of the kind of niceness that diminishes your power. When you know your worth, you no longer feel the need to overcompensate. You no longer feel the pressure to fix, to tolerate, or to diminish your life so that others can feel more comfortable. You step into your truth. And in doing so, you allow others the opportunity to rise to meet you. Men in particular are drawn to women who know their worth. Such women challenge them, inspire them, and call them to a higher standard, not by force, but simply by being themselves. When you embrace your worth, you stop trying to change others and instead you focus on being the best version of yourself. This shift not only changes the way men see you, but also changes the way you see the world. The journey to knowing your worth is ongoing, but it begins with a simple decision to believe that you are enough. When you live from this truth, you create relationships that are not based on superficial niceness, but on genuine respect and authenticity. You attract the kind of energy that uplifts and empowers, and you inspire those around you to do the same. This is the power of knowing your worth. It doesn't just change your life, it changes the lives of everyone you touch. T. Men don't need niceness, they need authenticity. It's a misconception that being overly agreeable, avoiding conflict, or constantly prioritizing someone else's needs over your own is the key to fostering meaningful relationships. While politeness and kindness have their place, true connection requires something deeper, genuine authenticity. Men are not transformed or inspired by niceness. What truly impacts them is a relationship built on honesty, integrity, and realness. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. It's about being honest with yourself first before you can be honest with others. It's knowing your values, your needs, and your boundaries, and then communicating them clearly. Niceness, on the other hand, often acts as a veneer, a superficial layer that masks your true feelings to avoid conflict or rejection. While it might feel safer to be agreeable, it rarely creates the kind of trust and respect that real relationships are built on. When a man encounters a woman who operates from a place of authenticity, he is faced with a choice. He can either rise to meet her in that space of honesty and vulnerability or step away. And while the latter might feel like rejection, it's actually a gift. Authenticity filters out those who are not ready to meet you at your level. It creates space for meaningful connections to flourish while eliminating the need to perform, to pretend, or to settle. Authenticity also fosters growth. When you are authentic, you create an environment where truth is valued over comfort. This doesn't mean being harsh or necessarily critical. It means being willing to address issues head-on with love and respect. For example, if a man's behavior falls short of your expectations or values, niceness might lead you to ignore it, excuse it, or try to rationalize it away. But authenticity compels you to speak up not from a place of anger or frustration, but from a place of care and clarity. This is where transformation happens. Men don't grow when they are coddled, they grow when they are challenged in a way that makes them reflect and take responsibility. Authenticity says, I care about you enough to be honest with you. I respect you enough to expect the best from you. This kind of honesty is not always easy, but it is always necessary for real growth and connection. Another aspect of authenticity is the courage to be vulnerable. In a world that often encourages women to suppress their feelings or prioritize others' needs, vulnerability can feel like a risk. But it is through vulnerability that genuine intimacy is formed. When you are authentic, you give a man permission to be real with you as well. You create a space where both of you can show up as your true selves, flaws and all, without fear of judgment. This level of openness is rare but powerful. It moves relationships beyond surface-level pleasantries and into the realm of true partnership. Niceness might avoid the hard conversations, but authenticity leans into them, knowing that they are the foundation of trust and mutual respect. It's also important to recognize that authenticity doesn't mean perfection. You don't have to have it all figured out or always say the right thing. What matters is that you are genuine in your intentions and actions. Men are looking for someone who agrees with them at every turn. They are looking for someone who challenges them, who stands firm in their truth, and who brings their full, unique self to the relationship. When you prioritize authenticity over niceness, you stop feeling the need to please everyone. You start showing up as you are with your strengths, your quirks, and even your imperfections. This doesn't make you less attractive, it makes you real. And when you are real, you attract people who value you for who you truly are. In the context of relationships with men, authenticity creates a dynamic of mutual respect. It sets the tone for how you expect to be treated and how you are willing to engage. It also allows you to see clearly whether a man is truly aligned with your values and vision for life. Niceness, while well-intentioned, often blurs these lines, making it harder to discern the true nature of the connection. Ultimately, men don't need you to be someone you're not. They don't need you to shrink yourself, to always agree, or to sacrifice your authenticity for their comfort. What they need is the real you, the one who knows her worth, speaks her truth, and isn't afraid to show up fully. This is where true connection begins, and it is the foundation of any relationship that is built to last. When you choose authenticity, you elevate not only yourself but also the men you engage with. You call them to a higher standard, not through manipulation or force, but simply by being who you are. And in doing so, you create relationships that are not only fulfilling but transformative for both you and the men who have the privilege of knowing you. Relationships thrive when they are rooted in truth. At their core, relationships are meant to be spaces where individuals feel safe, valued, and connected. This safety and value cannot exist without truth. Truth creates a foundation of trust, and trust is what holds relationships together, even during the most challenging times. Yet, in a world where avoiding conflict often feels more comfortable, many people shy away from the truth, thinking that niceness or silence is a better alternative. In reality, withholding truth does more harm than good. Truth is not just about honesty in words, it's also about being authentic in your actions and intentions. When you are truthful, you show up in a relationship as your whole self, unfiltered and unafraid. This doesn't mean being harsh or unkind, it means being transparent about your feelings, your needs, and your boundaries. A relationship built on truth allows both people to see each other clearly, not through a lens of pretense or fear, but through one of genuine understanding. When truth is absent, relationships become fragile. Superficial niceness might create a temporary sense of harmony, but it cannot withstand the weight of unresolved issues or unspoken frustrations. Imagine a house built on sand. It may look beautiful on the outside, but it will crumble when faced with a storm. The same is true of relationships that lack truth. They may seem pleasant and conflict-free, but they lack the depth and resilience needed to endure challenges. On the other hand, truth strengthens relationships. It allows for open communication, where both individuals can express their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. This openness fosters trust, as each person knows that they can rely on the other to be honest and transparent. Trust, in turn, deepens the connection and creates a sense of security that enables the relationship to grow. Being truthful also means being willing to have difficult conversations. These moments are often uncomfortable, but they are necessary for growth. For instance, if there's a recurring issue in the relationship, whether it's a lack of effort, unmet expectations, or differing values, truth compels you to address it. Avoiding the conversation might keep the peace temporarily, but it doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it often makes things worse as resentment and misunderstanding build over time. Having these conversations requires courage, but it's a form of love. When you choose to address issues directly, you're saying, I care about this relationship enough to work through the hard things. This kind of truth-telling is not about blaming or criticizing. It's about seeking solutions together. It's about showing respect for the other person and for the relationship itself. Truth also fosters accountability. In a truthful relationship, both individuals take responsibility for their actions and their impact on the other person. This accountability creates a sense of equality and mutual respect, as neither person feels the need to hide their mistakes or shift blame. Instead, they work together to learn from challenges and move forward. Another important aspect of truth in relationships is the willingness to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, but it is actually a profound strength. It takes courage to share your true feelings, your fears, and your hopes with another person. Yet it is through this vulnerability that deep connections are formed. When you allow yourself to be seen as you truly are, you invite the other person to do the same. This level of openness might feel risky, especially if you've been hurt in the past. But it is only when you take that risk that you can experience the fullness of a true relationship. Vulnerability and truth go hand in hand. They are the building blocks of intimacy. Without them, relationships remain surface level, unable to reach their full potential. It's important to note that being truthful does not mean being unkind. Truth should always be delivered with love and respect. The goal is not to hurt the other person, but to build a stronger connection. When truth is spoken with care, it becomes a tool for healing and growth rather than a weapon for criticism. Ultimately, relationships built on truth are the ones that stand the test of time. They are resilient because they are grounded in reality, not in illusions or unspoken expectations. They are fulfilling because they allow both individuals to be fully themselves without fear of judgment or rejection. Choosing truth means choosing authenticity over convenience. It means prioritizing depth over superficial harmony. And while this path may not always be easy, it is the only way to create relationships that are meaningful, lasting, and truly transformative. When you build your relationships on truth, you create a foundation that can withstand any storm and continue to grow stronger with time. Setting high standards is one of the most empowering things you can do in your relationships and in your life. It's not about being demanding or impossible to please. It's about valuing yourself enough to establish clear expectations for how you want to be treated. High standards reflect self-respect, confidence, and a commitment to building relationships that align with your values and aspirations. Yet many people struggle with setting these standards, fearing they might seem too difficult or risk pushing others away. In reality, setting high standards doesn't drive people away. It attracts the right ones and challenges everyone to bring their best. Standards are essentially the guidelines you create for what you will and will not accept in your relationships. They set the tone for how others treat you, and they communicate what you value most. When your standards are high, they serve as a filter, ensuring that the people who enter your life respect your boundaries, appreciate your worth, and share your vision for meaningful connection. Some people mistakenly equate setting high standards with arrogance or unreasonableness. This couldn't be further from the truth. High standards are not about expecting perfection from others or placing unrealistic demands on them. Instead, they are about holding yourself and others accountable to a level of respect, effort, and mutual understanding that creates a healthy and fulfilling dynamic. For example, having high standards might mean expecting honesty, kindness, and consistency from your partner. It might mean refusing to tolerate disrespect or half-hearted effort. When you set high standards, you teach others how to treat you. If you accept less than you deserve, you send the message that it's okay for others to give you less. This isn't about blame, it's about recognizing the role you play in shaping the dynamics of your relationships. If you consistently settle for behaviors or situations that don't align with your values, it becomes easier for those patterns to persist. On the other hand, when you maintain your standards, you encourage others to rise to meet them. Setting high standards starts with knowing your worth. It requires a deep understanding of your own value and what you bring to a relationship. This self-awareness helps you identify what you truly need and deserve, making it easier to articulate your expectations. When you are clear about your standards, you create a framework that guides your decisions and interactions. You become less likely to compromise on what matters most and more likely to attract relationships that align with your goals. It's important to remember that setting high standards isn't about controlling others, it's about controlling what you allow into your life. You can't force someone to meet your expectations, but you can decide whether or not to engage with someone who doesn't. This is where boundaries come into play. Boundaries are the practical expression of your standards. They are the lines you draw to protect your emotional, physical, and mental well-being. For instance, if you value open communication, a high status standard might involve expecting your partner to address issues directly rather than avoiding them. If this standard isn't met, your boundary might involve stepping away from the conversation until both of you are ready to communicate constructively. By upholding your boundaries, you reinforce your standards and demonstrate that you take your needs seriously. One of the most empowering aspects of setting high standards is the confidence it builds. When you refuse to settle for less, you send a powerful message to yourself and others: I am worthy of respect, effort, and care. This self-assurance is magnetic. It not only attracts people who value and respect you, but also inspires those around you to strive for better. However, maintaining high standards can sometimes be challenging, especially if you fear being perceived as difficult or if you've been conditioned to prioritize others' comfort over your own needs. It's important to recognize that setting standards is not about being rigid or inflexible. It's about being intentional. You can hold high standards while remaining open to growth, compromise, and understanding. The key is to ensure that any adjustments you make are rooted in mutual respect and shared values, not in a desire to avoid conflict or please others. In relationships, high standards challenge both individuals to show up fully. They create an environment where effort, respect, and love are consistently demonstrated. This doesn't mean the relationship will be free of challenges, but it does mean that both people are committed to working through them with integrity. High standards elevate the relationship, encouraging both partners to grow individually and as a team. Ultimately, setting high standards is an act of self-love. It's a declaration that you are worthy of a relationship that brings out the best in you and supports your well-being. It's a commitment to building connections that are meaningful, respectful, and aligned with your values. When you set high standards, you don't just enhance your relationships, you enhance your life. You create a space where only the best can thrive, and in doing so, you invite others to rise to the occasion. This is the transformative power of holding yourself and others to a higher standard. Empowering someone is a profound act of love and respect, but it's often misunderstood or confused with enabling. While both may come from a place of care and good intentions, they produce vastly different results. Empowerment inspires growth, independence, and responsibility, while enabling stifles development, fosters dependence, and perpetuates unhealthy patterns. In relationships, especially with men, it's essential to recognize the difference and choose empowerment as the foundation for meaningful and transformative connections. Empowerment begins with believing in the other person's potential. It's about seeing their ability to rise, to grow, and to overcome challenges. When you empower someone, you're essentially saying, I see what you're capable of, and I trust you to reach it. This belief alone can be transformative, as it challenges the other person to live up to their potential. Empowerment is not about doing things for someone or shielding them from the consequences of their actions. Instead, it's about encouraging them to take ownership of their choices and providing support as they navigate their journey. Enabling, on the other hand, often stems from a desire to protect or avoid conflict. It may feel easier to step in, solve problems, or excuse behavior than to hold someone accountable. However, when you enable someone, you rob them of the opportunity to grow and learn from their experiences. For example, if a man repeatedly makes poor decisions but faces no real consequences because you continually step in to fix the situation, he has little incentive to change. In fact, enabling often reinforces the very behavior you wish to see change, creating a cycle that's difficult to break. One of the key differences between empowerment and enabling is the intention behind your actions. Empowerment comes from a place of love and respect. It seeks to uplift the other person while maintaining your own boundaries and self-respect. Enabling, however, often comes from fear of conflict, rejection, or loss. It prioritizes short-term peace over long-term growth, which can ultimately harm both individuals in the relationship. Empowering someone also means holding them accountable. Accountability is not about blame or punishment, it's about encouraging responsibility and self-awareness. When someone is held accountable for their actions, they are more likely to reflect on their choices and make changes where necessary. For example, if a man exhibits behavior that doesn't align with your values or standards, enabling might look like excusing the behavior or pretending it's not a big deal. Empowerment, however, involves addressing the issue respectfully and honestly, making it clear what you expect moving forward. This approach may feel uncomfortable at times, but it is through discomfort that growth occurs. When you empower someone, you challenge them to step outside their comfort zone and confront areas of their life that need improvement. This process requires patience and a willingness to engage in honest, sometimes difficult conversations. But it's these very conversations that lay the groundwork for deeper connection and mutual respect. Empowerment is also about balance. It's important to provide support and encouragement without taking on someone else's responsibilities. For example, offering advice, sharing resources, or being a sounding board are all ways to empower someone without overstepping. On the other hand, constantly stepping in to solve problems or shield them from consequences crosses the line into enabling. The key is to offer help in a way that supports their growth rather than doing the work for them. In relationships, empowering rather than enabling creates a dynamic of equality and respect. It allows both individuals to bring their best selves to the table, fostering a partnership built on mutual effort and shared responsibility. When you empower your partner, you encourage them to rise to their potential, which in turn strengthens the relationship as a whole. It's important to note that empowerment doesn't mean being rigid or uncompromising. It's about finding a balance between compassion and accountability. You can be understanding and empathetic while still holding firm to your boundaries and expectations. In fact, it's this combination of care and clarity that makes empowerment so effective. Choosing empowerment over enabling is not just beneficial for the other person, it's transformative for you as well. It reinforces your self-respect, strengthens your boundaries, and allows you to engage in relationships that are healthy and fulfilling. It shifts the focus from trying to control or fix someone else's journey to supporting them as they grow into their best self. Ultimately, empowering someone is one of the greatest gifts you can give in a relationship. It demonstrates faith in their ability to rise, challenges them to take responsibility, and creates a space where both individuals can thrive. While enabling may feel easier in the moment, empowerment is what truly transforms lives and builds lasting, meaningful connections. It's a choice to prioritize growth over comfort, accountability over avoidance, and authenticity over superficial peace. In doing so, you not only uplift the other person, but also elevate the relationship to its highest potential. Prioritizing authenticity over approval is one of the most liberating decisions you can make in your life and relationships. In a world where seeking validation often feels like a default mode, the temptation to conform, please, or hide parts of yourself for the sake of acceptance can be overwhelming. Yet choosing authenticity, being true to who you are, regardless of how it's received, is the foundation of meaningful relationships, personal growth, and inner peace. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. To be authentic, you first need to know who you are. This involves understanding your values, beliefs, needs, and boundaries. It means recognizing what truly matters to you and what aligns with your sense of purpose. When you prioritize authenticity, you live in alignment with your truth, rather than shaping yourself to fit the expectations of others. This alignment creates a sense of clarity and confidence that is impossible to achieve when you're constantly seeking approval. On the other hand, prioritizing approval often leads to self-betrayal. Every time you say yes when you mean no, hide your feelings to avoid conflict, or change your behavior to fit someone else's expectations, you chip away at your authenticity. Over time, this can lead to a loss of identity as you become more focused on who you think others want you to be than on who you truly are. The cost of approval seeking is steep. It may win you temporary acceptance, but it denies you the deep fulfillment that comes from living as your true self. In relationships, authenticity is what fosters genuine connection. When you show up as you are unfiltered and unapologetic, you give others the opportunity to truly know and love you. Conversely, when you prioritize approval, you create a facade that may attract attention or affection, but it doesn't build trust or intimacy. A relationship built on pretense is like a house built on sand. It may look stable on the surface, but it cannot withstand the inevitable challenges that arise over time. Being authentic in your relationships also means being honest about your feelings, needs, and boundaries. For example, if a partner's behavior bothers you, prioritizing approval might lead you to stay silent, fearing conflict or rejection. But staying silent doesn't make the issue go away, it simply suppresses it, allowing resentment to grow. Authenticity, on the other hand, compels you to speak up, not from a place of blame or anger, but from a place of honesty and care. This kind of communication deepens trust and creates space for growth and resolution. It's important to recognize that authenticity doesn't mean disregarding others' feelings or being brutally honest without consideration. True authenticity is grounded in respect, empathy, and mutual understanding. It's about expressing yourself in a way that honors both your truth and the other person's perspective. This balance allows you to be true to yourself while still fostering healthy and meaningful relationships. Choosing authenticity over approval requires courage, especially in a culture that often rewards conformity. There will be moments when being true to yourself means facing criticism, rejection, or misunderstanding. But these moments are also opportunities to strengthen your self-worth. When you stand firm in your authenticity, you send a powerful message to yourself and others: I am enough as I am, and I will not compromise my truth for acceptance. This mindset not only enhances your relationships, but also attracts the right people into your life. When you prioritize authenticity, you naturally draw individuals who appreciate you for who you truly are, rather than for the role you play or the approval you provide. These are the connections that bring depth, joy, and fulfillment, the relationships that align with your values and support your growth. Authenticity also empowers others. When you live authentically, you give those around you permission to do the same. Your courage to be yourself can inspire others to break free from the cycle of approval seeking and step into their own truth. In this way, authenticity is not just a gift to yourself, it's a gift to everyone you encounter. The journey to authenticity is not always easy. It requires self-reflection, vulnerability, and a willingness to let go of the need for external validation. But the rewards are immeasurable. Living authentically allows you to experience the freedom of being fully yourself, the peace of knowing you're living in alignment with your values, and the joy of forming relationships that are built on trust and mutual respect. Ultimately, prioritizing authenticity over approval is an act of self-love. It's a declaration that your truth is more valuable than temporary acceptance, and your well-being is worth more than fitting into someone else's mold. When you choose authenticity, you not only honor yourself, but also create the foundation for a life that is rich, meaningful, and aligned with your highest potential. This choice may not always be the easiest path, but it is undoubtedly the most fulfilling.